Good afternoon, Colorado. Good afternoon if you're listening outside of Colorado. I'm Josh with K4CO Radio. Man, it has been a fun hump day, I gotta say. Gotta love Wednesday, but hey, Friday's right around the corner. Am I right? Thank you very much. You just got done with the Kev on the Radio show. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And we have a very lovely guest in the studio right now. We are having her in again because she visited K4CO Radio a little while ago, and we had some power issues and surges and all that fun stuff. And so we're just so happy to invite her back. Miss Heather Taylor. Heather, how are you?
I'm great.
Excellent. Yes. Thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it.
I was saying I should make it a regular visit now.
You should. You can have your own podcast right here on K4CO.
Yes.
It'd be perfect. Well, if you're listening on our app, in your car, definitely just stay in the car. Keep it on the app. You don't want to be switching over and watching us when you should be watching the cars in front of you. And if you see a blinker in front of you, slow down a little bit. Let them in. But if you are listening on the app or our website and want to see our lovely faces, you can go to K4CO Radio. Social media platforms. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, we're all over the place. But yeah, and then if you have any questions or any comments or anything like that, you can just put them right there in the comments section, and my producer will alert me as to those. And if you are listening on the app, you can also message the station through the app as well, and we'll get those. So Heather Taylor is the founder and principal of Impact Commercial Real Estate. It's www.impactcommercial.co. How's business right now? How's this week treating you?
It's good. It's a good week to be in commercial real estate.
Nice. So, yeah. We'll talk about a little bit of that because as everybody might know out there, K4CO has its new home. We got in here in July, actually. So I knew a little bit about the commercial real estate. So I'm going to be asking you all those wonderful, fun questions. How is the market right now when it comes to the commercial real estate? You see for lease signs all over the place. So someone who doesn't really know about the market, they could be like, well, it's a really bad market. It's a really good market because there's a lot of signs. What's going on?
Yeah, I think the only industry or market type in commercial real estate that's struggling just a little bit is still office. Mm-hmm. That changed a lot after COVID and kind of had to reinvent itself or change a little bit and adapt to kind of the new trends that people were seeing in the workplace. But retail, industrial, developments, things like that, hotels, they're still doing really, really well. And I think we were all shocked by that after COVID, thinking, oh, people are just going to shop online, retail stores are going to close up, things like that. But it seemed that people wanted to get out. Maybe they were tired of their family, their spouse, who knows, whatever. And they really like those experiences. So even though retail's still great, those experiences have really shot through the roof. And it might be just a play gym or, whatever it might be. People are trying to create those events for people that they can be with their friends or family. And so that's really, really popular. And the offices are converting, changing. There are some businesses that have to have office space, a car title, things like that. So there's still customers for office. It's just changing the way it used to look and function.
I definitely think it bounced back with the retail side. I mean, everybody was so sick of being inside. So I think the pandemic was good for that. Do you find that I've heard there's a lot of companies saying you're getting back into the office, but there's still a lot of work from homes. So you think it's the work from home type stuff that is really bringing the office space a little down?
Yeah, and I think that we all think we work really well at home, but there's so many distractions, and I think companies are starting to feel that and really want people to come in, even if it's just a hybrid model,
Right.
It's hard. You might be like, oh, I'm just going to throw in a load of laundry or, let my dogs out. Who knows what it is, but it does get in the way with those hours and sometimes your attention, and companies are feeling that.
Right.
And, it's good to kind of work with your peers. It's good to get out in the world and you're not just stuck there seeing yourself, I guess, type of way.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's helpful to get out and get into the workplace, and that also helps, those retailers, those lunch locations, things like that. It just spirals and helps the economy overall.
I remember working from home. I did it for about 2.5 years. I was a day trader staring at 4 computer screens. And it was like, at the end of the day, I'm like, I need to get out.
Yes.
I need to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm not really one of those that can work from home all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
with my job, I can definitely do some stuff at home, which is nice.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
for
I
a
gotta be out.
while, yeah, and for a while, HOAs, those covenants that are controlling neighborhoods were allowing a lot of businesses to work from home. Or,
Right.
as things got back going, maybe your staff was coming over. Maybe you had a cleaning company and everyone would come in the morning and grab their products and then head out to the locations. And, this year's been a big push to, hey, no more. This is a neighborhood. It wasn't meant for your business. Now you need to get out into space. So we have a lot of those companies that reinvented themselves around COVID and now need those smaller warehouses or flex space where it's kind of partial office warehouse, things like that. That's really popular too, just to get them out of their home environment and really make it a functioning business and seem more legit too, right?
Right, exactly. We kind of touched on this a little bit last time, but I want to bring it up again just because, I mean, you see prices out there all over the board. I mean, from, like $14 a square foot all the way up to like $35 a square foot. So why such a huge thing? Because a lot of these smaller ones at the smaller numbers, it's not like they're dumps or anything. They're nice office spaces.
Yeah.
Same with the other ones. So what do you attribute to that?
Yeah, it could be a variety of things. A lot of those landlords are kind of making new space in the building. Maybe it's common area space. Last time we talked about like a workout center, which
Yep.
seems cool, but most people don't use. I have one in our building and no one ever goes in there. But you are paying rent on that. Like it seems like it's an extra thing. It's not in my space, but really you are paying for that. And so there's amenities that you're paying for, but also sometimes their loan is dictating kind of what the rental rate needs to be. So it depends on the strength and health of that landlord as well. And it's important to have your broker check that out. Like, is this a strong landlord or are they selling? Like, what's their status so that you can feel comfortable that you would do well having your business there, usually for many years. Leases in the commercial world are usually at least 3 years is what landlords like to see, and then they build on there. And that's a big commitment if you don't know the health of the landlord and what's really going on, or what are the plans for the building. What happens if the parking lot needs to be repaved? Is that going to go as a cost onto the tenants or the roof, or just all those kind of things that you need to look at to make sure that your business can be successful.
And you were saying last time that stuff like that, when it comes to expenses, can make your lease go up. We did have one of our listeners ask a question about, they had a new owner, I think, and are they safe? Will they get kicked out? Stuff like that. You said they won't get kicked out, but expenses could go up.
Yes, and it's really based on the properties getting purchased at a new basis, a new price, and usually people are paying more. Not always, but usually they're paying more for that property, having tenants in there, and it's an investment. And so then that raises your property taxes because there's a new value on the building, and then that also raises your property insurance. And so those are pass-through expenses that go into the tenant. And kind of to go back to that listener's question, you just have to really make sure that you have a valid lease, right? Not just that you believe it's valid, that it is a legitimate valid lease, and make sure there's no termination clause. Like, I guess there could be in a lease, I've never seen one myself, but there could be, hey, when we sell, your lease is terminated. I mean, that would be terrible, and I hope that a business wouldn't sign a lease like that in the first place, because that's very risky.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm sure that could happen. I've seen redevelopments of shopping centers where it's getting turned into apartment complex instead, and they give the tenant 6 months notice. Hey, when we sell, 6 months notice, it's going to get developed, or what. So you just got to make sure you're really looking at all the terms in your lease to make sure you're safe and can keep operating your business, because that is scary. If you have to move in, it costs a lot of money to move. It's a pain.
Right. Well, that's good. You've never seen that before,
Yeah,
though.
never.
You've been in this for a while. So let's go kind of back to, so, somebody's starting a business, or, they just want to leave their spot. Why have representation? And there's multiple different types of representation that you can go into, because you do landlord representation, but you also do tenant representation.
Yes, and you could be a transaction broker, which you don't see often. It's very hard to be a transaction broker. But
What is that?
So that's where you're kind of helping both sides. You're working for the transaction and you want that transaction to get done. Why that's hard is because usually the tenant always has questions, right? Like, do you think this is a good lease rate? Do you think this is a good spot? Do you think this is a good term? And as a transaction broker, you can't answer that. you're like, well, I'm
Are
just
you
getting the
legally
deal
not
done.
allowed to?
Yeah, you're not
Oh,
working
wow.
for either party.
Right.
So, like when you drive down the street, let's say you see a building, you're like, oh, that's a cool building, and there's a sign there. That broker works for that landlord. And so their fiduciary duty is to get the best deal for that landlord and get that deal done for the landlord. They are not working for you as the tenant. And just like if you drove by a house and saw a sign, you probably wouldn't trust that broker to get you the best deal. They're working for that homeowner. So it's really good to have your own representation as someone who's going to fight for what is right and know the market and make sure there's, you know, just even like you signed a good lease and you're not going to get kicked out, or there's so many things that come with each business. Each business is so different, and that's kind of what I love about commercial real estate. I get to kind of be in everybody's business and learn so much, but there's specific things that are unique to each business, and you got to make sure that that lease is going to, you know, apply to that business and make them be able to do everything they need to do. Or, you know, I was helping a client with a really great innovative idea, and I'm like, it sounds cool, but it's never been done before. So what if it totally fails? Maybe it's never been done because it's kind of a stinky idea, right?
Right.
You're going to be stuck in this lease. And so I had her come up with alternative uses for the space, and we got all those uses approved in the lease so that, you know, if you try your idea and it's really stinky, you can pivot and still have a business, and, you know, because you're going to be liable for that lease and you want to be able to be successful and continue on something else. Then.
Right.
And if you don't get all those uses approved, you're going to be stuck, and maybe you have to sublease or who knows what. You're going to not have those uses approved. So it's good to think around what you might do today, but also tomorrow. Maybe your business changes a little bit. It's similar, but it changes in direction. So.
And you said that term-wise, I mean, it's hard to get something below 3 years. Most of them are about 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Say. And of course, the longer you do, the less the rent is or the lease is, right?
Yeah, definitely. Or the more tenant improvements you get. You know, when you rent an apartment, you might put down some wallpaper or you paint the wall or some flooring. The tenant's doing it themselves, and then they have to return it back to what it looked like. In commercial, each business is so different. And if you need something specific for your space, sometimes you're asking the landlord, you're saying, hey, I'll commit to you for a long time if you help me make this space like what I need. And that's hopefully what the broker's helping you negotiate. And hopefully, you know, when you're done, you don't have to take all that out. You know, hopefully the landlord sees it as a valuable piece to the new space, and then you get to leave it if you do need to move or close or whatever it might be. So it's negotiating all those pieces up front, so then you don't have a huge expense later. But that term could get the landlord to be willing to help invest in your business too, because they hopefully want you to be successful.
Well, they want you to stay because you leave, then they have to find somebody else. They have to hire other people.
Yeah.
Are there possible ways, like, would you recommend where, you know, the tenant can do a lot of the work themselves or hire out the work themselves instead of having the landlord do all the work and find the people?
Yeah, and that just depends on the negotiations again. And some landlords, you know, maybe they're pretty strict on it just with their insurance or maybe their loan that they have. But I've had lots of tenants where they're like, oh, well, my dad's a GC or my brother, and they'll do it so much less for me. And so those are good opportunities to take advantage of that. And then hopefully in return, your broker's negotiating maybe free rent or things like that in exchange. If you're doing the work, then there should be another exchange for that if you're doing all that stuff to the space too.
Right, because you're helping the landlord as well.
Yeah. And if you
upgrading
need
it.
a loan maybe for those improvements, the only thing that I really encourage everybody is to make sure you know the term of your loan. Let's say it's 10 years, you got a 10-year loan. Make sure that you get a lease that's 10 years. Like, it should match. You know, the bank's going to want to see that. They're going to want to make sure that you can be there for that term and really pay your loan back. If you only have a 5-year deal, well, then what's going to happen after 5 years? Maybe the landlord raises your rent so much you can't stay. Or they find, you know, a lot of landlords like to find your competition, right? Maybe I'm a cupcake maker and they're like, oh, well, it's all built out. Now this other person wants it and they're going to pay so much more. Sometimes you can't even stay, even if you want to. So you want to make sure that the loan terms match with the lease terms so that you're safe and can keep doing business. And hopefully your broker also adds on some option years to let you stay longer.
And not only the loan terms or anything like that, but I've even found like internet. stuff like that. You want it all to match up.
Yes.
Because then you're kind of stuck.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes. I've seen businesses that didn't use brokers and going to the internet comment or even power. Like they move in, it seems like a great building, and then they can't even do what they need to because the power's not enough. I walked into a business and they gave me a tour and they're like, this place isn't working anymore. And they were only using half of it because their machines took up so much power, and that was all the power that came to the building.
Right.
And so they were paying rent on a whole bunch of space, but only using about half. And that's hard too on a business. If you were expecting to fill it up with all these machines and now you don't even have the power you need, that's a bummer too.
Mm-hmm. And you were talking last time when we came in here. Well, you talked after the power issues and everything like that there are power issues kind of going on, and you need to have representation where you said something like you have to be able to do your business.
Yeah, like ability, like in your, if you're in your apartment, you need to be able to sleep there or live there, and it can't be too noisy. There has to be quiet enjoyment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And if you're a business and you have things that are very specific to your business, you need to be able to do your business successfully. And if you can't, there should be some language in the lease where the landlord's reimbursing you for your rent or discounting your rent or something. There has to be obligations that the landlord owes to you as a tenant too. And sometimes that even goes to exclusivities. I had a client one time and their main business was hot dogs, right? And I love hot dogs. Okay. I know. And so they were the exclusive tenant in this big center for hot dogs. Well, there was this big chain that came, and on the kids menu they had a hot dog. Because of our lease, the way it was done, they had to pay zero rent until that big chain got rid of the hot dog, because the landlord didn't look at didn't put all of it together and tell them, hey, you can be here, but you can't have hot dogs on your menu, or you can't be here, or whatever. We were in first, and we put the exclusivity on hot dogs. No one else could sell hot dogs. Right. So there's things like that your broker can negotiate too, so that you are the only person in that center or that building that is offering that thing, so you don't have that same competition.
I take it that happens a lot, like retail especially.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And it's kind of crazy. You just don't want them next door. Yeah, they could go across the street. Usually that's a different owner, but...
Starbucks.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like in Seattle, when there's 5 of them you can see.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so you just want to make sure that whatever you're doing is going to be safe and acceptable, and you'll get to be there for a long time, and no one else is going to kind of sneak in on your market.
Right. You guys do a lot of different things, as I said. So tenant work, you can do commercial ownership. I mean, when someone comes to you, first of all, if you are listening on our app or in the radio, founder and principal, Impact Commercial Real Estate. We're speaking with Heather Taylor. It's impactcommercial.co. Phone numbers 720-217-1315. And when someone reaches out to you, no matter who they are, tenant, buyer, whatever it is, what does that process kind of look like from day one?
So we start to just kind of interview you, understand how your business is currently operating, and then maybe what you need. Is it too small? Do you want to go smaller? Do you need more efficiency? Mm-hmm. Or does it need to be a totally different product type? Like there was so many businesses that were in retail and did move to a flex building, and the rent is less expensive there. And so it gave their business some freedom to do other things, like take that money and put it towards other things.
Especially since office is a lot cheaper than retail.
Yeah. So it's kind of maybe what we call right sizing. Like, so what does your business need? What is it missing? And then really looking at, and sometimes people forget this because you just maybe get excited about a location and you're just like, it's just so beautiful. But it's really also looking at what is my drive time and what are my key employees' drive time? Mm-hmm. You don't want to get too far that they leave you, right? Because you moved a location. That really stinks. But we've even got so specific. We had one tenant that their business was birds and selling birdseed. And so we had to count treetops, mature treetops. They needed a certain amount of mature treetops in that area to say that it was a good area.
Wow.
With people buying birdseed. So each business is totally different. I love it. The clients know their business best. And so I kind of put that onto them. Like, what are your key things? And then we make a list. And I usually tell them, like, I'm probably not going to get 100% on this list, but we're going to try and at least get half, right? Mm-hmm, we want to really find a way to make it be a better fit. Sometimes we'll get all the way through. We just had a client, we got all the way through, and it was like, you need to stay. where you're at. Let us help you talk with your landlord. We don't want to get in the middle of the deal. Like, we can help with a renewal or expansion or something like that. But if it's going to impede in the way, then Impact will step out. We'll just help give you some advice, things like that, so that you can stay. If that's really the best thing for you, that's what's most important, not really us getting a commission or a fee. It's making your business whole. Mm-hmm. And then that leads to referrals, and more business all around. So it's better to really analyze that business and make sure we know what's best for them. And sometimes you might think it's a crappy spot that you're in for whatever reason, but maybe it is the best,
right,
compared to what's
needs.
On the market. Yeah. And,
right.
and what you already have. And we will look at that cost of moving, because it is a huge expense. Business cards, letterhead, moving all the furniture, everything. So when you equate all that into one, you might be like, your savings over here is only this much. Let's try and find a way to make this better. Or what could the landlord offer you to keep you to stay? Let's talk about that, or whatever. Yeah, right. Whatever it needs to be. So we're really analyzing the business and what their future needs are, if we can. It's hard to predict the future, but the best that we can, and then set up a plan from there. And usually then we're like, got an idea, and we start touring. And once you kind of put your eyes on things, that helps too. The tenant was like, or the buyer, they're like, oh, this is great, or my competition's here. We'll look at all stuff like that. If people care about traffic counts, we can look at traffic counts. There's all different kinds of measures. And I kind of said this last time too, that's why I like commercial. Like, you can figure it out. There's an answer, this is how many traffic counts I need. I don't want to be by this competitor. Right. I can find the answer. I bless the residential brokers, because it's so emotional. I don't even know how
it's
sometimes.
It's so personal too. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you don't even know why someone's picking the house. It's just, you're like, this wasn't even in the area you wanted. Why do you like it? But right. They do. Versus business is more about numbers and things that I can put my fingers in and say, this is why, or this is not why. So I really like that piece. So we're analyzing the business, touring, and then negotiating. And we're usually negotiating with a letter of intent. It's a non-binding document that we are either offering a purchase price with terms or a lease rate with terms, and then we're negotiating back and forth before we get to the real documents, typically.
And you do everything from landlord, tenant, all the way up to people want to buy a building, to invest in a building, or sell as well.
And I love this right now. There's so many landlords with buildings that do have vacancies, right? Especially if you're an office tenant. Your broker should be talking to the landlord about, yes, you're leasing the space, but I want a little bit of ownership in the LLC.
Right.
So that way you get a little ownership, but you're also a tenant. And so a lot of landlords are welcoming that right now, and letting tenants come in and have a little bit of ownership. The landlord likes it because you're going to be there forever, right? Like, this is kind of your commitment if you have a little ownership in the LLC. But then also you enjoy your tenancy better. You feel like you have something tangible after that lease is done as well.
And your website talks about investment advisory and development consulting. Is that basically what you're talking about right now?
Yeah, or even just your lease is an investment. If we compare two leases, or if we compare a lease versus own, if you're buying a building and you're putting down this huge down payment, we need to look at, where's that coming from? Like, a lot of people are taking it out of their retirement accounts or things like that.
Right.
You're already earning a percentage. Is taking that out and buying this building now going to give you that much better of a return in your business? Like, we need to look at what your return is. If you're taking it from somewhere and putting it somewhere else, you're technically losing that return. Is it going to totally benefit, or should we look at lease? And so we'll look at those two scenarios side by side. It could be the same building, and we could be like, if you buy it, this is your return. If you lease it, this is your return, and we look at what's better. And then we ask them, what's your discount rate, or what's your investment number? Maybe they're like, hey, I don't want to do this unless I'm getting a return of 9%. Or, sometimes people don't know. So we usually use 8 just as a standard number. If people are like, I don't know, what do you think my return should be? Yeah. Right. So we can help with that too, but we'll help analyze, because you are taking that money from somewhere, and it better benefit you equally or greater than where that money is invested currently. So that's kind of, but it could just be totally just a straight investment. We've done Starbucks deals or 7-Eleven deals where you just have a tenant, and we call them coupon clippers. The tenant is so regulated in how their building is and what it looks like that you as a landlord aren't doing much when you own the building. You're just collecting rent. They have a standard look. You're not like, okay, send me your checks, right? Your return on that investment is going to be lower, right? Because your work on that investment is going to be lower versus like investing in a car wash. I'm going to have to go take out the money or things like that. So there's a different investment level, but we'll look at all those and what your main goal is too.
And well, actually two things. One, you talked about office, you talked about retail, you talked about industrial. You also mentioned flex. What is flex?
Flex is where it doesn't have to be equal, but you usually have half office, half warehouse, or some portion of office and warehouse. So you have that piece where you have the office, but you have a kind of an open space where you could have, you could make it into offices 100%, but you usually have a lower rate there than a straight, retail center. So we have a lot of clients, like we put gymnastic studios and something like that. It just kind of depends on the zoning. Gymnastics or karate, things like that, or other activities, you have to make sure there's an assemblage use allowed there. You're assembling a lot of people together and making sure that there's fire exits and things like that. A lot of times clients are just like, oh, it's a big warehouse, it'll be great for gymnastics and tumbling. And they don't think about like, oh, what's going to happen when the city comes and sees us all crammed in this space, right? There's got to be some rules. So yeah, flex is where it's not totally, you're not manufacturing a lot and it's not 100% office. It's in the middle. And that's really popular right now, that kind of flex industrial area.
I bet. Right.
Yeah.
And what would you say? I mean, you're in Centennial, but you go outside of Centennial too, right?
Yes.
What footprint do you cover?
We're statewide.
Okay.
So we work on a lot of stuff. We've worked on stuff in Pueblo, way up in Fort Collins and further north. So it's statewide. Commercial's a little different than residential. Like a lot of residential brokers focus on a neighborhood or an area. Commercial is different where, we have some tenants that Impact represents. Like we do a lot of Firehouse Subs or Culver's or Scent Hound, which is a dog grooming business. And they have to go all over multiple locations. So we're traveling around with them. We've done some work for the state around. So we've gone lots of places. I did a deal in Deer Trail, which I grew up in Colorado and I didn't even know Deer Trail was a location.
Yeah. Morgan Adams, actually. We do a lot of work with the Morgan Adams Foundation for Pediatric Cancer, and they have the racetrack out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I was like, what?
I know Deer Trail now.
Yes, yeah. So we go all over as long as it's commercial. And commercial would be anything that's 4 units and above. So, like, if it's a tiny 4-unit apartment complex, that's residential, and you would even get a residential loan for that. Right. Anything above, like 5 and up, we're entering into commercial territory.
Now, if someone, say, wanted to hire you for lease renewal or anything like that, how does the pay work? How do they hire you, pay you for representation, an hour? I mean, how does that work for you?
Yeah, there's no standard, so it just kind of depends on what you work out with your broker and what that agreement looks like. It could just be that you're paying us on retainer, kind of like a lawyer. You could say that, or you could say, hey, I want your commission to come from the landlord. You're negotiating on my behalf, and the landlord's getting to have me stay here, so negotiate whatever that is I need. Maybe I just did an office deal where they had to have a new coffee bar put in because it was leaking and just old.
And so you need your coffee, yeah.
Yeah. So that was part of the agreement was, hey, landlord, we'll agree to 5 more years, but you have to put in this coffee bar and make a couple other small changes. And in exchange for that, you get this tenant for this remaining term. And to do that negotiation, the landlord did pay our fee. Like I said, in that one example, if we're getting in the way, we'll just help just because it's goodwill and, push out that good energy. But we don't want to get in the way of making a deal happen or not. So some landlords feel, hey, it's already my tenant, stay out of it, and we don't want to make it hard on anybody. So we can help. It just depends on the situation. And sometimes if a landlord does say stay out of it, but the client's like, I really need your help, then we'll stay in on a retainer basis. I've been gifted many things in exchange for that. Like those horses you used to ride at like King Supers. I was given a carousel as my commission to help out, and I was like, what do I do with this?
Really?
Yeah. My lips are tattooed by Yulia. She's an amazing tattoo artist, but she it's like you don't ever have to wear lipstick. It's amazing. So there's other ways of exchanging services, I guess.
Right.
We'll make it right for the tenant. Our goal is to make them succeed, and that's where our name came from. Impact is we really want to make an impact on the community and businesses and make it better for everybody.
And speaking about the community, I mean, 99% of Colorado is all small business, and there's small businesses opening all the time. You just look at Secretary of State, and it's insane. What would be kind of your advice where someone says, okay, all I know is that I need a place outside of my house. I don't know if this is going to work, and I want flexibility and as little, like commitment as possible, just in case it doesn't work. Would you recommend going for a lower, shorter term lease, or you were talking about where you can, because the problem is if you wanted to subcontract it in, or sublease it in, then you have to find somebody else to lease though.
Yeah.
So what would you advise for most?
I mean, sometimes that is the simplest way, right? If you just love the location and the landlord's like, it's got to be 3 years, making sure that you have the subleasing capabilities or option, and that there's not a lot of fees associated with that. Sometimes landlords charge a fee to be able to review this new tenant, or maybe you're still on the hook. Even though you have this new tenant, you're still on the hook, right? There's a lot of risk that goes along with that. So just making sure that all those are buttoned up. If this is the right location, you decided is perfect, and it's got to be 3 years. I just did a deal with a client where it was 1 year because their growth is projected to be so much, right? And
so they didn't want to be locked in for over a year because of their growth.
Yeah, gotcha. And they were going to expand, and there really wasn't place to expand in the building. For right now, it was perfect, but what do you do then, right? We need to be able to get out. So in that case, we did pay 100% up front, which is a huge chunk for that tenant, but it was enough to sway the landlord to say yes. So there's ways to negotiate around it, and you just got to know as the broker, if you're representing a tenant, what the tenant's threshold is, or if you're representing the landlord, what does the landlord need to make them feel comfortable moving forward. Right. And so that's where the two jobs come in, and hopefully the two brokers are fighting it out, so then the landlord and tenant are happy in the end.
Yeah, they just stay out of it and just let them fight. I like that one right there. You wanted to talk, because you do a lot of stuff in the community. I mean, Impact has been around for a while, and you talk a lot about the community. There was a nonprofit that you want to talk about called Bold Steps, and people can go to www.boldstepsco.com. Tell us why this is very important to you.
Yeah. So again, the name Impact, we want to make an impact. We help a lot of nonprofits with locations or expansions. Bold Steps, we're hoping in the future as we raise funds to have an actual physical location. But my children came from foster care, and I just have a very big passion for foster care. And Bold Steps is helping teens that are in foster care that get pregnant. And our goal is to help them stay with their child. It's very hard. A lot of times, foster homes are certified just for teens or certified just for a baby, and they get separated. And that's no good way to kind of start. Obviously, they've made a mistake, but we want to help support them and make it that they can make it through if they choose to keep their child. And we hope that we can support them through that all the way. The real need right now with Bold Steps is we created a mentorship program, but we didn't want to call it mentorship. We wanted to call it Cousins, because we wanted to feel like family and not really telling you what to do, but we want to be there for these teens and help them through. So right now, the teens are staying in their foster placements, and we're just helping mentor them or supply them with what they need, maybe clothes or hygiene products, whatever it might be. And then, like I said, the ultimate goal is to have a physical location where the teens can be with their child. And there's going to be a teen dad portion too if they want to stay involved. But it's really uplifting them and supporting them so they don't feel lost. And it's different than if a teen has a baby. They can go to their schools, where they go, but if you're separated from your baby, how do you get in that school? You don't really qualify now. So Bold Steps was started by another Heather, not me Heather, but another Heather, and she's amazing. And it's just really, we're working really hard to help these teen moms because they're already kind of in a bad situation, and it seems to them like it got worse, and it could really be a blessing if we can help them out. So I would love anybody who's interested or passionate about that to reach out to Bold Steps. We have lots of volunteer opportunities and things like that. And then hopefully in the end, Impact is helping them with a future location would be amazing. And
how did you get involved in this? You said it wasn't started by you, but another Heather.
Yeah.
So how did you come across this? Because it seems like you are really passionate about this, especially with your kids.
Yes. Yeah. I've just been helping with lots of nonprofits through commercial real estate. We did a project across from Colorado Mills Mall. It was a motel, and it got turned into transitional housing for people in Jeffco, things like that. So word kind of got out that we were helping these nonprofits and making these deals happen, whether it be places for shelter. We helped Domingo with his project. You know, there's so many nonprofits out there that we love to help and get involved with, and that comes with commercial real estate. Sometimes they have to have a location to meet or have to have an office to be official, whatever it might be. Our goal is really to help them get to that spot where they need, and through commercial real estate, we're able to help, and that's kind of how the other Heather was told about me, and that you know, it just kind of fit with everything in my history and what they got going on. Another really great one is Soul Dog. So they have a location off of Broadway. It's a thrift store, if anybody likes thrifting, that helps. But Soul Dog's main location is in Fort Lupton, and they go to the res. And if anybody would love the best experience, it's amazing. We go to the Four Corners, different locations all the time, and we help spay and neuter as many dogs and cats as we can as possible. And then there's some that need help and need rescuing, and we bring them back, or just homeless, just kind of walking along the street. So we bring them back and get them up for adoption. But it's a great organization too, and I hope to help them find a new location, because Fort Lupton's kind of far for a lot of people, and so it would be great if they had another location down south as well. So Impact hopes to help them in that respect. But I've gone on a lot of those clinic trips, is what we call it, and it's just an amazing weekend of just great people, and you just really get to see the impact you make on that community and the dogs and cats' lives, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Colorado is huge in nonprofits. There's a little joke out there, which is like, if you move to Colorado, well, you got to start a nonprofit. But I love it because Colorado is so giving when it comes to that. What types of, since, you know, we're talking about nonprofits and you've worked for so many, or with so many, what types of things that a nonprofit can take advantage of when it comes to securing a spot? Because a lot of times nonprofits do need that space for what they do. What advantages can they have that, you know, just a regular for-profit business can't?
Yeah, well, some buildings, and there's one really close to where we're at right now, is owned by a foundation. And so their whole point is to have nonprofits in the building, and they're sometimes giving really discounted rent, sometimes free rent, kind of like an incubator space, but for nonprofits. So those are great. Those, if they fit into that building type, right? Those are perfect for nonprofits, but also, you know, a lot of landlords like giving back and feeling that same generous give like you talked about. So those nonprofits are able to find those locations that fit well for them, that they can still do their business, but hopefully at a little bit of a discount, or, you know, if not, at least it's just maybe an amazing location they couldn't pass up. But having that donation piece can help a landlord oftentimes too. In their taxes and stuff like that, depending on how the lease is written and what happens in that deal.
And do nonprofits also get tax breaks on lease payments or rent payments? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it kind of depends on how you set up and what, if you're a 50c3 or, you know, however your nonprofit is set up depends on how that is worked out. I just know sometimes we've done leases where landlords are like, I want to give you an extra whatever, you know, $20,000 just as a donation. I love what you're doing, and I'm so happy to have you in the building. I usually tell the clients, you know, hey, let's save that. That will help you pay your rent too. You know, even though that's a donation, and maybe you need it now, but let's make that also to help you pay your rent or something like that. So it's just giving that flexibility to that landlord. It's not just a straight deal. It's like, hey, do you believe in this nonprofit? And I will say there are some interesting nonprofits that some landlords are like, that's a nonprofit. And I'm like, that's a nonprofit. So each to their own. So it's good just to also, as a landlord, check out the nonprofit, make sure that it's legit, or you know what's going to be happening in that space, because there's been some interesting ones. But you know, landlords like to give back and feel like they're a part of it too. They feel like they've contributed and helped out, and so there's usually that give on both sides.
Right. And you see quite a bit more. I mean, you know, there's leasing signs all over the place, but you help on both ends. Do you see times bouncing back? Like, perfect example is Denver Tech Center. There was a long time where it was like 30% filled, even 40 or something like that. Do you see it kind of bouncing back right now in that direction?
Yeah, the suburbs are doing great. You know, they're filling up and changing and adapting pretty well. Denver, you know, they put a lot of initiatives in place, and they just changed, you know, 16th Street Mall to 16th Street and put a lot of investment in there. We'll see how that works, but it's nobody's really sitting on their hands just waiting to see what happens.
Right.
Like, Colorado's really pushing forward and finding resolutions and solutions. I know we all thought, oh, every office building is going to be apartments.
Yep.
What's interesting is most office buildings were built square. And so what that means is you end up with, if everybody turned to office building or apartments, you'd have all these long little apartments with one window, right? Because it's so square. So it really only worked on a certain amount of office buildings that were rectangular. So you could get all the light that, you know, usually a tenant has.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you look at the way apartments are built, they're just usually long and rectangular, but so many office buildings were square, and it was like, that doesn't really work. How do you get the light in there? And so it didn't work as we kind of all imagined after COVID would. And so then those buildings that were square had to kind of reinvent themselves again and change it up and see what they could offer to bring back those clients. But it's been a real transition, and people have been creative, and I think that's amazing in seeing their resilience for sure. And every time there's a downturn or a lull, that just means there's opportunity for ideas and innovation, and maybe other businesses that couldn't afford it before. They couldn't never afford their office space, and now they get to have one. And so even though some businesses suffer, like, we've helped some businesses that are like, I have to sell my building, right? I just have to. It's the only way. And that's fine. That's what I like about commercial now. It doesn't mean your company has to close or your business has to stop. We just need to find you the right lease space, and we sell your building and we change it up. We had an insurance company that we helped that owned a really big base building, and they bought it right before COVID, right? And they were going to expand their operations, and then it just ended up being the owner and his wife sitting in this big building because everyone was working from home. And some companies, if you forced the employee to come back, they were like, I quit. You know, so do you just let everybody go, or what do you do? And so we ended up selling his building for him and got a great buyer, and then found a spot to lease. So there's always that ebb and flow in your business. Even if the best predictor plans what their business is going to look like, you just never know in the future. Right, exactly. It changes.
Well, before we go, I definitely have a question. What's your favorite aspect of it? And what type of client is your favorite to help? Tenant side, the landlord side.
I really love the small businesses because, you know, it's their heart and soul. They've raised this money, or they've created this thing, this widget, whatever it might be. And when you help them, they're so thankful. Like, I've worked for really big developers, you know, and they're like, well, you just did your job. Like,
right.
Congratulations. And I'm like, well, you don't understand how hard that was. But the small businesses know how hard it is. And then you kind of are like part of their family. You know, you're like, I drive by with my family, and I'm like, oh, you know, that was like that one and that one. And, you know, like you feel a part of it. So I really love that. And I learned so many things. Every business is different. And you got to learn kind of about that business and how it works to know if it's the right space. And so then I kind of have a little bit of knowledge. I always joked that maybe someday I'll have a TV show called In Your Business. Like, I just like to be in your business and figuring things out. So I think that's the best client, is that small business. And I just love helping and seeing them grow and thrive in the end.
It was said right here, in your business, so you cannot call it that. Otherwise, Heather's going to come after you.
Yep.
And there's recording
and
right
I'm going to
here.
be in your business if you take it.
Oh, there you go. I like it. Well, Impact Commercial Real Estate, Heather Taylor, you are the founder and principal. This is right, 7000 South Yosemite Street. You are in Centennial, but you work all over Colorado.
Yep.
Cell phone number 720-217-1315. Reach out. There's so many small businesses starting every year. It's insane, but that's one reason why I absolutely love it here. There's so much small business. Anything else before we kind of go? And well, thank you again for coming in. I really do appreciate it. But if you are starting a business, or if your lease is ending or anything like that, you need representation. I completely know that for a fact. So
yeah, and if you just have a question too, like, I don't mind chatting. I love talking. So
it sounds like you really like what you do.
Yeah. I found my niche. I went to graduate school for something different, got my dream job, and was like, ugh. And thank goodness I found commercial real estate. We also do a lot of internships. So if anybody has a high schooler or college student, we love interns and kind of helping them learn the business, because I wish somebody kind of took my hand in high school and said, you don't have to go to college. You could get your license and make a lot of money, or maybe you still get your license and still go to college. It's just a great opportunity. So we love interns and love to bring them in and teach them the ropes.
And especially these days. I mean, college is just so expensive, and there's so many different things that you can do and do very well. So thank you very much for coming in. I really appreciate it. Everybody stay tuned. Of course, every single day from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. we have one solid hour of only Colorado musicians in our K4CO radio rotation. And then, of course, tonight we have Wednesday nights, Kind of Vague Radio, hosted by Andrew Talent and Rob Dixon. Go to impactcommercial.co. You can also email Heather at impactcommercial.co.
Yep.
Or 720-217-1315. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Have a good night. And then everybody listening, have a good night. If you did catch the end of this on our social media platforms, it's going to stay there for at least a month. And of course, YouTube, it's going to be there forever. So go back, rewatch it, and reach out if you need. So take care, everybody. Have a great Wednesday night.